All right. Well, this morning I wanted to go ahead and do this review for our quiz, which will be tomorrow, which is, let's see if it'll let me share this screen. I don't know if it's letting me share the screen or not, guys. So most likely you might have to be looking at a picture of me the whole time, which is, I know, painful. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about population growth. So you'll have to look at a couple graphs. Remember, have to look and see when you believe the population is the greatest, when it's the least. Obviously, if you're looking at a graph, those are just points on a graph. When we look at density dependent versus density independent, remember factors. The independent factors are your natural disasters or your catastrophic events, where your density dependent are going to be things like predation, competition, parasitism. So what we're looking at is we're looking at biotic factors being the density dependent and abiotic factors being the density independent. So if I had to give you some examples of density independent, I would give you like natural disasters, unusual weather, seasonal variations. If a population grows larger than that, than the carrying capacity can handle, nature is going to take care of that with the death rate will probably rise and not rise a whole bunch, but rise to a point where it puts us back into that carrying capacity area. When we look at some of the other things that you'll see on this quiz, how do different density independent factors or abiotic factors such as like pesticides, how will that affect a species? Can it affect a species in a way that will decrease the food supply? If it decreases the food supply, what's that going to do to the population? We have talking about decreases to a level near extinction. Organisms are dependent on other organisms in the food web. So while they can't adapt and evolve, they cannot immediately do so. So a situation could present an extinction risk. We have reintroduction to American species, which can produce seeds. The carrying capacity is determined by the amount of available food, habitat, competition. Size of a food web is limited to the number of primary producers that are in an area. We have declines or over harvesting probably doesn't affect some species, but it can bring in a decline to other species in based off of the climate. Again, natural disasters are your density independent limiting factors. They are your abiotic factors. We keep looking at the carrying capacity. Remember, the carrying capacity is that area which the environment kind of lives in naturally. The carrying capacity of a population will stay the same unless its environmental conditions change. So the carrying capacity is determined by the amount of resources available in the ecosystem. If there's a lot of resources, the population can exponentially grow. That's that J curve. If we have a logistic growth and puts us into carrying capacity, that's because there's limiting factors that are holding it there. Remember, as a population grows larger than the carrying capacity, the death rate will rise. To kind of put that into perspective, or emigration could happen with an E, as some animals or species are going to move out of that area. Any abiotic or biotic factor in an ecosystem that causes a population size to slow or decrease is a limiting factor. We have population of humans living on Earth has increased tremendously due to scientific discoveries and technology. That's because that technology has increased. We've been able to create more resources for ourselves. As long as our resources are plentiful, we will be able to stay within that area and stay convincingly able to procreate and be able to create more organisms. If we look at some different areas, like for instance, if we looked into an area and a population of a species decreased, and we looked at it and we tried to figure out what would affect it in a year's time, we're looking more at a density independent, so like a change in weather or a change in their habitat, their environment very quickly. It usually doesn't tend to be something that is density dependent, like diseases or an increase in predators. It usually has to do with the density independent area. Let's see. An abiotic factor affecting the behavior and survival of birds. Remember, abiotic meaning non-living, so that would have to do with maybe sunlight or climate versus how many predators are out there, things like that. If I had to say biotic factors, remember, if you're talking about biotic factors, though, it would be maybe predation, competition for an area or for an organism. Now, like I said, your quiz has quite a few. Your quiz has quite a few graphs, and you're going to need to make sure that you look those up and are able to get that figured out. All right, that should take care of it. Hopefully you study, and you should be fine on this quiz. It's 26 questions, and it kind of builds on a little bit of our symbiotic relationships. So just make sure you're studying. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know.